Let's travel through the shadows together.
Welcome, Truth Seekers, to another mind-bending episode of the Evident Conspiracy Files. I'm your host, Mark Mayhew, broadcasting from the foggy shores of England, where the North Sea whispers secrets of foreign wars and hidden agendas. If you're tuning in on Apple Podcasts or watching on YouTube, leave us a review once we've finished. We'd love to know your thoughts, because the shadows are closing in and knowledge is our only weapon against the encroaching darkness. Today, we're diving deep, really deep, into the abyss of global tensions, conspiracy threads, and the potential for World War III. Through an evident conspiracy lens, we'll explore how the West's tango with Russia might be more scripted than spontaneous. How NATO's moves have poked the bear one too many times, and why figures like Nigel Farage saw this coming decades ago. We'll also unpack Trump's bold grabs for resources in Venezuela and Greenland, hinting at prepping for the big one. Then we're laser focus on directed energy weapons, known as DEWs, DEWs, from their sci-fi roots in the 1960s to today's battlefield reality. Courtesy, of course, of our shadowy corporations. We'll also expose black budgets ballooning to 100 billion a year, leaks hinting at alien technology that's been reverse engineered, and whistleblowers like Bob Lazar, who were ridiculed until they were proven right. Strange skies filled with UAPs echoing World War II's Foo Fighters. Weird check Luis Elizondo's bombshell book imminent. Double-check patents for holograms and nano-camouflage technology that could be deployed right now. Oh, and capping it all, a deep dive into Project Bluebeam, where this war might just be elite theatre for Agenda 2030, and of course the New World Order. With a side of HARP weather control to boot. With more details, historical deep dives, and gripping narratives. It might run on, so grab your tinfoil hat now and a strong cuppa and settle in.
I see. Dead people.
If the others don't wake up, we're all dead. Just as dead as you'll be. Now come take a walk with me through the shadows.
You stupid bony bastard! Look what you've done!
Grim will be at the apocalypse, I'm sure. Alright, let's kick this off with the geopolitical powder keg that's the brewing storm between Russia and the West. We'll expand in more historical context, key events, and the conspiracy angles to really set the stage.
If you've been following the news in early January of 26, the UK, US, and other NATO allies are on high alert, with warnings of hybrid warfare from Russia's cyber attacks, sabotage, disinformation campaigns that could cripple power grids or sway elections.
But is this a genuine clash of civilizations, or a manufactured crisis designed to keep us in fear? Through our conspiracy lens, we'll peel back the layers, going all the way back to the roots of this mess, and expanding on how NATO's actions have systematically escalated things.
Let's start at the beginning. The Cold War ends in 1991. The Soviet Union collapses, and there's this golden moment of potential peace. Mikhail Gorbachev, the last Soviet leader, negotiates with Western powers. And there are verbal assurances documented in declassified memos that NATO won't expand eastward. James Baker, U.S. Secretary of State, tells Gorbachev in 1990 not 1 inch eastward. This was about German reunification. But conspiracists argue it was a broader promise to keep Russia secure in its sphere.
However, fast forward to 1999, NATO welcomes Poland, Hungary, and the Czech Republic. Russia protests, but it's weak post-collapse. Then 2004, the Baltic states Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania join, right on Russia's doorstep. These are former Soviet republics, and Putin, who's risen to power by then, sees this as encirclement. Conspiracy theorists point out that this expansion wasn't defensive, it was aggressive, aimed at containing Russia and securing energy routes, markets, and military bases for Western corporations.
Now with Ukraine the flashpoint. In 2008, at the Bucharest summit, NATO declares that Ukraine and Georgia will become members someday. No timeline, but it's a promise that dangles like a carrot or a threat.
Georgia invades South Ossetia that year. Russia responds forcefully, and it's a preview of 2014. The Euromaidan protests in Ukraine oust pro-Russian President Yanukovych, who had rejected an EU association agreement that Russia saw as a backdoor to NATO.
The West cheers it as a democratic revolution. Russia calls it a CIA-backed coup. Now enter Nigel Farage, the current Reform UK leader, but was leader of UKIP at the time. Back in March of 2014, in the European Parliament, he stood up and delivered a scathing warning to the EU leaders.
"You've been poking the Russian bear with a stick," he said, accusing them of meddling in Ukraine's internal affairs and encouraging unrest. That gave Putin a pretext to annex Crimea. Farage argued that the EU's expansionist policies were arrogant and dangerous. If you carry on like this, he warned, you'll start a war with Russia. He even predicted the bloodshed, saying the West had blood on its hands for goading Putin.
Critics slammed him as a Putin apologist, with figures like Rishi Sunak and Keir Starmer later, calling his views appeasement during the 2022 invasion. But let's expand. In interviews over the years, in 2014 with Sky News and 2016 with the BBC, even 2022 on GB News, he's consistently argued that NATO and EU enlargement humiliated Russia, treating it like a defeated enemy rather than a potential ally. He references Putin's 2007 Security Conference speech, where the Russian leader blasted NATO's unilateral and illegitimate actions. Farage is not alone. Realist scholars like John Mearsheimer in his 2014 Foreign Affairs article Why the Ukraine Crisis is the West's Fault echo this, saying NATO expansion was a fatal provocation.
Now with a conspiracy angle. Was this deliberate? Some theorists, drawing from declassified CIA documents on revolutions, suggest the West engineered Ukraine's shift to justify military buildup. But why? Perpetual conflict feeds the military-industrial complex. Companies like Lockheed Martin and RTX rake in billions from arms sales to Ukraine. By 2026, the war's a stalemate. Russia holds 19% of Ukraine, grinding advances in Donbass, but at huge cost. The UK aid alone, tanks, missiles, training, were extended to 2026, yet no direct UK troops. Well, officially anyway. Conspiracists like myself whisper of special force ops and hidden casualties. Casualties so much so that I can't find any details of how many Ukrainians have been killed. Expanding further, Russia's NATO aspirations. In 1954, the USSR proposed joining, but were rejected, classed as incompatible. Post-1991, Russia joined Partnership for Peace in 1994, and the NATO-Russia Council in 2002. Yet Putin, in 2000, informally asked NATO chief George Robinson about membership, but apparently demanded VIP treatment, no reforms, no queues, rejected. By the mid-2000s, relations have soured. No formal, no expansion promise. But archives show Gorbachev felt betrayed. In 2026, UK MPs say Russia considers itself at war with us via hybrid warfare. Former MI5 head Eliza Manningham Buller cites sabotage since 2022. Putin's nuclear threats over Arctic deployments. Well, the conspiracy. This is scripted escalation for resource control and depopulation agendas.
NATO made it worse by rejecting diplomacy, ignoring Russia's 2021 demands for NATO. Rollback. Let's not forget the human cost. Millions displaced. Economies wrecked.
Is the UK secretly at war? No formal declaration, but aid and internegus proxies? Through conspiracy eyes, yes, a Cold War turning hot to test new tech.
Shadow War. I love shadows. They're where I hide my Sith. NATO poking the bear. That bear's got nukes, flashy.
Donald Trump's back in the White House for term 2, and he's not mincing his words or actions. In early January this year, US forces conducted a lightning raid in Venezuela, capturing Maduro and his wife on long-standing terrorism charges from a New York indictment. Airstrikes targeted key sites and a naval blockade seized oil tankers. Trump frames it as lawful enforcement, tying it to migration control and countering Chinese-Russian influence in Latin America. But through our conspiracy lens, this smells like a blatant resource grab, prepping America for the resources required for World War III. Let's expand on Venezuela's treasure. Proven reserves of around 304 billion barrels, the world's largest, mostly heavy crude oil, perfect for US refineries. Under Maduro, production soared, then crashed due to nationalization, mismanagement, and US sanctions from 2017. From 3.5 million barrels a day in the 1990s to under 1 million today. Exxon and Phillips had assets seized in 2007. Trump calls it theft and promises restitution. The historical parallel, think Iraq 2003. Weapons of mass destruction as pretext, but oil underneath. Trump's first term rhetoric in 2019. He mused about Venezuela's oil. In the 2023 campaign, he said it was about to collapse, and the US could take it over. Now, in 2026, he's doing it again. Post-raid, Trump met big oil CEOs, Exxon, Chevron, Conoco, over the 9th and 10th of January, urging $100 billion investments to revive infrastructure. He said revenues would benefit Venezuelans, US firms, and reimburse America, even floated selling oil to China and Russia if they behave. Again, the conspiracy here is World War III preparation. Resources fueled World War II, Japan's Southeast Asia invasions for oil rubber, Germany's Barbarossa for Soviet wheat oil. Today, with global shortages looming in oil debates, Trump's securing supplies. Venezuela's oil could offset Russian exports cut by sanctions. Critics at the UN call it an illegal invasion, violating sovereignty. Now Greenland. Trump's escalated demands to buy from Denmark threatening the use of force, at the time at least. Reviving the 2019 idea, now with muscle. Official rationale: Arctic strategy, airbase, monitors for Russian subs and missiles. But expand on resources. Greenland's ice melt reveals vast minerals. USGS estimates up to 36 million tons of rare earth elements. China dominates 90%, that's 90% of rare earth elements. Greenland could break that. Riches include iron, graphite, uranium, gold, copper, etc., and a potential 31 billion barrels of crude oil and gas. The so-called climate change issue accelerates access with new shipping routes like the Northwest Passage. Donor Roland Launder, with Greenland Holdings, pushes Trump, calling it a treasure trove for trade routes and rare earth minerals. However, it's noteworthy of the economic hurdles. $700 billion plus just to develop. Harsh conditions. It could take decades for any type of return. But conspiracy angle makes sense. It's about post-World War III dominance. Trump's NSS prioritizes resource security and national security, weakening NATO to focus on the US fears. This distracts from Russia, emboldening Putin, splitting West for elite gain. Tying to Russia, Arctic tensions rise. Russia claims half the Arctic, militarizing with bases. Greenland gives the US the edge. Elites, like the Bilderberg Group attendees, plan resource curve-ups, while we fight proxy wars. The human cost. Venezuela's chaos displaces more fear in Greenlanders. So, is this America first or elites first?
Resource grabs. Trump's like a kid in a candy store. Except the candy's oil, and the store's someone else's country. Greenland.
More like Greenland. If World War III hits, you'll be grabbing souls faster than he grabs land.
Let's shift to the tech that can make World War III a laser show. Directed energy weapons. We'll massively expand this with testing history from the 1960s onwards. Yes, these weapons are real, so let's dig in. Directed energy weapons, also known as DEWs or DEWs. They sound like something out of Star Wars or Buck Rogers, but they're real, and conspiracy theorists argue they're far more advanced than the public are led to believe. Bear with me here. While we won't dive in to why this is possibly tied to alien tech that has been reverse engineered or covert operations right now, and yes, there is evidence to back those claims up, we need to expand with a deep historical dive, starting from their sci-fi origins in the 1960s through key testing milestones, company involvements, and the integration today. The concept dates back further to Nikola Tesla's 1930s death ray ideas and particle beam defense. But the 1960s marks a military sci-fi turn. In 1960, Theodore invents the first laser at Hodge's research labs. By 1962, the US military's exploring lasers for weapons. Project Seesaw, running from 1963 until 1973 under ARPA, now known as DARPA. They test chemical lasers for missile defense. Early experiments at White Sands missile range zaps targets with CO2 lasers. The 1960s expansion. Amid Vietnam and the Cold War, lasers evolve from rangefinders to weapons. 1968. The US Army tests a ruby laser to ignite explosives, large distance. The sci-fi influence is H.G. Wells' 1898 War of the Worlds. Heat rays inspire 1960s films like Goldfinger. Popularize the idea. People won't question. In the 70s, momentum builds. 1973, the Air Force's Airborne Laser Lab, known as ALL, or ALL. The program starts soon after mounting CO2 lasers on KC-135 planes. First shootdown was in 1976, a drone at Trina Lake. Note, this era ties to SDI, basically Star Wars, under Reagan in 1983, but its roots are back in 1970s with the Black Projects. Now, the 1980s, mid-infrared advanced chemical lasers at white sands, like the megawatt deuterium fluoride laser. 1985, it destroys a Titan missile booster in its tests. The Sea-Light Beam Director integrates for ship use. The basic conspiracy whispers of the technology are believed to be used in covert operations, like unexplained fires, including those on land that have been listed as caused by climate change. Even some UFO sightings could actually be these lasers being tested. Now, if you think about it, it's not bonkers. Let's say you're testing classified technology. Someone witnesses something. Let's say, for argument's sake, a green laser. Immediately, you spring up a UFO story. Something like UFO spotted over North Sea with blinking green lights. Now, everyone interested in the story is a conspiracy theorist or a UFO nut, in the eyes of many. But the legitimate sighting of classified tests remains a safe secret. Official misinformation. We know now, after many years, this is a normal practice. Anyone who hasn't heard of Richard Doty and interested in secret technology and alien visitation, seriously, research this guy. And if you'd like an episode diving into his classified work, let us know. But for now, Richard Doty was part of the Office of Special Investigations. His job, when official information got out, use real information and add misinformation to knock people off the scent. Basically, this is making the story unbelievable and unverifiable. This tactic worked time and time again until he came clean, confirming that at least 80% of all the information is in fact real. But now, back to the laser tech. The 1990s and the shift to solid-state lasers. The THEL, Tactical High Energy Laser, was with Israel, and in 1996 the prototype zaps away in tests. Come 1997, airborne laser known as ABL was fitted to Boeing 747s for testing. In the 2000s, things massively accelerated. 2002 came the MTHEL, basically the mobile version. 2008, Advanced Tactical Laser, quickly installed on C-1330 Burns vehicles. 2009, LAWS, the laser weapon system primed for Navy tests. Anyway, you're starting to get the picture, but now let's jump straight to 2017, when the UK's Dragonfire is unveiled. Now the Dragonfire dive. And the UK want to implement their new tech. 2017 DSEI reveals a £30 million contract to MBDA, a phase combined 50 kilowatt laser. 2017 to 2019 saw component tests like beam control and atmospheric compensation. During 2020, Dragonfire saw pandemic delays, but static firings at Porton Down were witnessed. 2024 saw aerial takedowns, drones that were vaporized. Videos show the precision. 2025 saw £316 million exchange hands. This year, 2026, integration tests and service is implemented. It's expected in 2027 these technologies will be well into service. The amount of time and money gone into these weapons, I'm sure they will be used. Other technologies, like PHASER microwaves, tested in the 2020s, but recently used by the US Black Ops to take down the Venezuela army without a single shot fired, to extract their leader and his wife. We will dive deeper into these technologies very soon. There's other technologies like Boeing's TRAMP, so CHAMP, tested in 2011, which is basically an EMP cruise missile, and later the compact laser system since the 2020s. Through a conspiracy lens, DEWs calls wildfires in California during 2018, but were the blue-roofed houses spared? The testing history hides black op use, for example in the 1980s SDI exotic lasers from alleged reversed engineered UFO technology. The implications of World War III will be cheap defense versus drones and missiles, but we could see things escalate dramatically. There will be no integration of these new technologies to Ukraine. The military will not use them straight away, and if they do, it will not be reported. The less our enemies know about our technology, the better. That said, the military-industrial complex will not want us to know. Just imagine if we knew of zero-point energy weapons. Would we still be paying billions each year for fossil fuels? Probably not. Big oil runs the globe.
If they zap me, I'll just reform. Skeletons don't burn. But you flesh bags, you're toast. Ha ha!
Grimm's fireproof, lucky him. Now let's dive in to black budgets. US black budgets officially $50 to $100 billion each year, but conspiracy theorists say there is more funding with zero oversight. It's all compartmentalized, even insiders are isolated to a degree. Hearings in 2023, grosh, non-human craft. Leaks were in 2024 involving RTX and Lockheed Martin. And Bob Lazar in 1989 with Area 51 claims, later confirmed, and the element 115 required for anti-gravity. He was ridiculed, but in 2019 documents confirmed his employment. Alexander's imminent informs us partly about Skunkworks' exotic propulsion technologies and their UAP links. World War II orbs. Allied pilots report glowing balls dubbed the Foo Fighters, trailing planes over Europe and Asia, Nazi experiments or ETs. Today, similar UAPs spotted. Now, is this our tests preparing for World War III, or are we being watched? And the nuke incidents. Moundstorm 1967. 10 missiles offline after a UFO was spotted over the facility, including Minot in 1968, and there were many others. There are many patents, including hologram technologies used for decoys, including nano camouflage, deployed covertly for deception.
Alien tech. If ETs show up, I'll reap them. No discrimination.
Monsat's 1994 exposure, the NASA UN 4-stage plan. Stage 1, quakes, there be fake. Tighter HARP, the 1994 Alaskan ionosphere heater. Conspiracists like myself say HARP controls weather with the tech like 5G. There be quakes, hurricanes, used for war. However, some say even the 2010, the Haiti quake, was nothing but a HARP test. Stage 2, use holograms and plasma tech. Stage 3, telepathy via ELF. Stage 4, plan a fake alien invasion leading to Agenda 2030. Unroll the UN WEF depopulation plan, the guidestones that were demolished back in 2022. That was a cover-up. They don't want you to know what's coming. The call for a 500 million global population. The elites, like the Rockefellers and Gates, dismantle global structure, ready for the New World Order. The current Russia war is nothing but a distraction. So, is World War III just rigged? Is it just theatre? Could it be a way to lower the global population? And if so, stay vigilant and question what the mainstream media feeds you. We would love to hear what you think. Is this just a show for us to keep us in line and get you to trust your government? We hope you've enjoyed this episode, and remember, we have exclusive content on Apple Podcasts, with much more soon to be added. And a massive thank you to those who have supported the show. We truly thank you for helping us keep the lights on. Now, if you would like to support us, either subscribe on Apple Podcasts or support the show in the link in the description. If you choose to support the show through Apple Podcasts, there is exclusive content on there. We will be adding much more exclusive content very soon. That's in the pipeworks and it's almost ready to roll out. And that will just be for you, and that is going into factual information. Of course, there's conspiracy hints, it's information, especially even with the Epstein files. There are so many elites, if you like, with the disclosures of what's coming out. But people that actually control what's going on with you, us, the population, whether it be in the UK, the US, other areas of the globe. Obviously, the rest will be available on most other podcasting platforms, except for that exclusive benefit. So if you do want to support the show, again, Apple Podcasts is probably the best one. If not, we thank everyone for any form of donation. If you've listened to some of our very first podcasts, you can clearly tell the difference between how we started to where we are now. We've done that from listening to people like yourselves. And obviously any support that we've had, we've put back into some of the equipment that we have, including this thing here and some of the other bits that go with it that really benefit us. And obviously we've picked up that people have started to enjoy more of the content. I do apologise for some of the delays as well that we have had, either through obviously editing the shows from sickness. It's a very small team we've got, including myself. I've been out for a couple of weeks now. I'm back on my feet. The beginning of even this episode, you might be able to see I was a bit different. A couple of bits had to be cut because I was coughing, sneezing, etc. You know, bits you don't really want to be watching or listening to. But again, if you do also text the show, please obviously be aware that obviously we can't reply to that. So please leave your email address and we get back to you as soon as we can, especially if, as many people have done, you've got any ideas of topics you'd like covered, deep dives, etc. so please do get in touch. In the meantime, continue to question everything, stay safe, and we'll see you again somewhere in time.
Thank you for watching and or listening to us. If you haven't already, please help us reach more people by liking, sharing, and subscribing.
Please take a moment and leave us a review. It really helps the algorithm. And if you want to see me again, let us know. Bye, peeps.